Welcome. Signing day's become quite a deal, obviously, for all of you to walk across campus or to travel in this level 2, is that right? Level 2 snow emergency that we have today. It's obviously a big deal for us as we officially add 40 new members to our football family. We come back here on campus right before Christmas holiday, and we sit down and we put together a big board offensively and defensively, and we rank and evaluate every player we've recruited by the offense, by the defense. Then we get together as a whole staff and go through that process again. And we rank each player by position in terms of where we see them fitting in our recruiting plans. We'd hoped this year with the recruiting money that we had, the scholarship money that we had, to take 10 offensive scholarship players and 10 defensive scholarship players, and we were able to do that. And fortunately, it was able to do that out of the pool of players that we evaluated as being scholarship worthy, guys that we could win championships with, guys that were the right fit. That list that we put together initially said there was 36 players in our pool of, what's the number, Dave, that we were evaluating? It'd be easy to say 500, I mean, and not exaggerate, but there were 36 players that we wanted to be able to visit on campus that hadn't already signed Division I or committed to Division I schools. We were able to get 20 of the 36 players to make an official visit, to come on campus, to spend a night with our players on campus, to meet the people on campus, to meet the coaches, to sit down and visit with a professor. And out of those 20 players that we officially visited, 19 of them committed. 19 of them committed, which is unbelievable, which tells us if we get them on campus, we've got a chance. You know, none of the players that didn't visit committed. So if we don't get them on campus, we have no chance. We were able to figure that one out. But again, it's a great testament to our players as much as anything else. When I sat and visited with these guys after they would commit, you could talk about, was it the tradition, was it the academics, was it the, the food, admissions, financial aid, whatever, all the people that we need to thank that were part of the recruiting process. And it does take a lot of people to make it work, but time and time again, the players that committed to us reinforced the fact that it was our players on campus that sold them on our program. The kind of young men that we currently have in our locker room, the purpose that they displayed. I had a couple players say to me, John Connor mentioned to me on the home visit, he automatically connected right away with John Sippa, who was hosting him. And he could see himself and John Sippa being lifelong friends after just one night together here on campus. And those kinds of things are so important to you. That group that did a lot of recruiting for us is a group of athletes we felt was part of the success we've had ever since we've recruited this facility. And a big part of that success is displayed by the fact that next year we'll have 24 seniors and 26 juniors in our program. We've never had retention like that. Out of the 104 guys we have working in our program right now, 50 of them are juniors and seniors, which tells me we did a good job with those recruiting classes, because if you recruit the right guys, they're going to stay here. The fit has been good and the retention has been excellent to have that group of juniors and seniors that we can play with next year. So we're trying to find the right guys, and that's been the plan and the process that we've gone through, and today we get a chance to meet those 40 new players that join the football family. Just to mention also, and whenever we have the opportunity to recruit, we always start by talking about tradition, because without that we don't have a chance. And so we're trying to build on the tradition of the teams that have been here in the past. Hall of Fame coach and alumni that have been so supportive of this facility. Alumni that are in the high schools as coaches and principals and superintendents who are part of our program. But our tradition has been so important, and we tried to build on that and add to that with some of the things that was mentioned on the slide here, that are listed on the slide. If you have a chance today, because this whole theme of tradition and building on tradition is something we never want to lose track of, we're working on right now on the Hall of Champions. As you would come through the lobby on the first floor here at the Troop Center and go towards the locker rooms, it says Hall of Champions. And on the right, our Gridiron Club and Ralph Tomasi and many others are in the process of highlighting that tradition of Ashland Eagle football decade by decade by decade. Championship teams, black and white pictures, full-blown shots on the right side of the wall as you go through the Hall of Champions. That's the tradition of the past and the champions of the past. As you look on the other side of the hallway, you see the current players, the current All-Americans, the guys who've been drafted in the NFL. We have 2 new All-Americans to put up there, Taylor Housewright from a year ago and Jamie Meter from this year. So we're adding to the current tradition, and it's big and blown up and full color. And so that whole theme of that hallway is talking about having great tradition here in the past and building on that tradition for championships in the future. And so it's easy to sell that, and it's something that players buy into and believe in, and it's something that's really helped us in this whole recruiting process. This is kind of the breakdown of the players in terms of the geography and where they're from. We will constantly recruit that 100-mile radius around Ashland, Ohio. There's well over 4 million people as you go into Toledo and Cleveland and Youngstown, Akron, Canton, Cleveland. And that's where the vast majority of our players are always going to come from. That's an hour's drive away, and we know all the statistics. If you're recruiting players within 100 miles, the retention rate doubles. We're all talking about retention and trying to keep players here. Obviously, Southwest Ohio continues to be an area that we want to be more involved in. We're recruiting players there. It's a little bit outside our footprint. It's a little bit outside that 100-mile radius. It takes a little longer to get there. It's a little harder for those players to visit, to get to a game, to get to a camp. But we're really committed to continue to get into that area and recruit, because there's a lot of really good high school football players in that area. We have a lot of alumni connections in that area. And so as we move forward, particularly into next year's recruiting class, we've got to really make an effort, a commitment to do a better job recruiting in Southwest Ohio. Let's take a look at some of the guys in this year's class. Chris Boykin is a wide receiver. We really felt wide receiver was a big priority in this recruiting class. We do have a young man who's committed to us from a Division I school that's planning to transfer at the end of the semester. We can't obviously mention his name here today, but we're excited about his commitment to come here afterwards. He's already played at a MAC school for a couple seasons and was a young man we recruited out of high school. So that was a great way to start. As well as there's a linebacker from a Big Ten school that's committed to coming here at the end of the semester. And we really didn't have a big need at linebacker, but again, to have an opportunity to get that kind of player, and it was a young man, again, locally that we'd recruited, and he'd like to come back here. He's actually going to be able to come back here and work in a graduate school as he finishes up his last couple years of football. So we do have 2 transfers coming in, but they are both committed to finishing their academics at the school they're at this semester and won't be joining us until summer. So we also have a wide receiver incoming, freshman Chris Boykin from Toledo Whitmer, a big athletic wide receiver at 6'3", 205 pounds. He was a young man who had a couple opportunities to play. Or was offered scholarships at other Division I schools, and they just kind of fell through at the end. And that Division I dream dies hard. He kind of took us to the end of the recruiting process, and I understand that. But I think he knows this is going to be a great fit for him to play wide out here with the opportunities we have in our offense. Anthony Brown is a defensive back from Bedford, Ohio, 6 foot, 205 pounds. Xavier Buzard from Delphus Jefferson is a defensive end, 6'3", 220 pounds. I already mentioned Mike Buzzard. Maybe I didn't mention Mike Buzzard. My list here is a little different than the slides. But Mike Buzzard from Columbiana High School is a defensive lineman. Mike Buzzard, our alumni linebacker, walked in a few minutes ago, and I had to tease him about the fact that we have another Mike Buzzard now on the team. But really an excellent player, a guy that, again, I think we were able to steal away from Youngstown State and was going to be able to come in and help us right away. If wide receiver was a priority, so was defensive line, so was defensive back, so was tight end. Those were really the important positions for us to recruit to this year, and we think Mike can help us up front right out of the gate. John Connor, offensive lineman from Walsh Jesuit, big 6'5", 300-pounder that coming from a great school. Coach Reardon at Walsh does a great job there, and John was one of the first recruits to commit to us. He was on the first visit. Devon Crum from Midview. DJ Shaw just recently took over there as the head football coach. You know, DJ's an alum of ours, and obviously he was a big advocate of Devon in terms of the kind of football player he was and how he could play for us and the kind of player we were looking for in our program. You know, DJ, you know, he's an Ashland guy, coach. You know, he's going to work hard. He's going to do things right on and off the field. He's going to show up every day and give you great effort. Those are the kind of things you want to hear. And obviously, when you got one of your own guys out there as the head football coach, you know, you get it straight from those kinds of guys. Trevon Dickerson from Mansfield Senior, defensive lineman at 6'2", 188 pounds. Noah Graves from Bucyrus, an undersized offensive lineman who was here last week. Chase Green from Perkins High School, Sandusky Perkins, big defensive lineman who's very talented. That's a great, he's going to have to grow a little bit, and that's the nice thing as we talk about these players. As you know, when you have a program with a bunch of juniors and a bunch of seniors, and I shared this with most of the recruits and most of the parents, a lot of times these freshmen aren't going to come in and be ready to play right away, and I'm not going to have to play you before you're ready to play. You may need a year or two in the weight room to develop, or a year of playing JV ball to develop before you're ready to go out there and compete at the varsity level. And I think the players appreciate hearing that and being honest in terms of what our evaluation was in a lot of times. Anthony Grundy, offensive lineman from Fairborn. Tony Harvard, a running back from Thomas Worthington. And originally we weren't going to take running backs this year because, as you know, we've got some pretty good running backs returning in just about every class. But I think any time you're out in recruiting and you have an opportunity to sign a player as a difference maker, you know, you evaluate him as a Division I guy, a guy who should be playing at the next level, and you have an opportunity to sign that player. I think you have to do that. So we're real excited about what Tony brings at the running back position. Harrison Hopple from Minerva. Coach Rose called him after watching this film, the Minerva Mauler, at 6'3", 240 pounds. Another one of those defensive linemen we're counting on coming in and being able to help us and give us some depth right away. Miles Huska is an offensive lineman from Highland. As you know, Tyler, his cousin, was here and played defensive line for us. He still wrestles for us, and so we spent 4 years with a Huska on the defensive side of the ball. Now we get to spend the next 4 with a Huska on the offensive side of the ball. And you know, Highland had such a great year with that playoff run. Miles's coach, Chris Meyer, was an alum from here also. Chris is up there coaching at Highland now and had nothing but great things to say about Miles. Deshaun Howard, a wide receiver from Toledo Bowser. Dale Irby is a corner athlete, wide receiver from Sandusky Perkins. Dale was one of those guys early in the process that was identified by alums, by coaches, by you know, lots of guys out there. This is, if you get a chance, this is a player you want to be able to sign. And so Coach Elliott started on Dale long ago, and it was good to be able to sign Dale. Dale reminded me that he's related to Orlando Pace from Sandusky, Ohio. So I reminded Dale that I recruited Orlando Pace, and that worked out okay. So I'm not sure that had a whole lot to do. And I'm not promising it's going to go quite as good as it went with Orlando. Actually, I saw on the NFL Awards Saturday night he's eligible for the Hall of Fame next year. It's hard to believe. It's how old I'm getting, but we spent some time. We think Dale can come in and compete at the cornerback position right away. And as you know, that was an area last year that we really struggled, and Dale might be a guy that can, he will be a guy to give us some depth there right away. Cardell Jackson from Kent Roosevelt. Trayvon Chapman, you know, played at Kent last year, and Trey had a chance to play with Cardell and really said some great things about the kind of person he was. He's a great student, an excellent student, had some Ivy League opportunities. He's as good a person as he is a student. He's fighting through a knee injury, probably going to spend a year rehabbing the knee before he's really able to come back and be the kind of player we hope he can be, or we think he can be in the future. But he's a really good guy to add to the team. Tyron Jackson from Madison Grove Point's a defensive back, 5'11", 180 pounds. Vince Lewis from Pickerington Central, offensive lineman. Granger Long from Zanesville. Again, we talked about how important it was we fill our needs at tight end. We lost a couple other upperclassmen, and so we had to recruit there. And we thought what Granger was able to give us is the skilled kind of tight end that you know you're looking for. That particularly in your 11 personnel when we're in the shotgun, and a guy that can really run the middle of the field and is athletic and do those kinds of things. And he's able to do that right now. You know, he's going to be a guy who's probably going to have to to fill out a little bit in the weight room before we're able to get in there and take on big defensive ends out of our heavy sets. But we think Granger athletically is exactly what we're looking for. Sam Wakowiak from Bishop Hartley is a running back linebacker at 6 foot, 215 pounds. Brendan Makecham from Midview High School is a kicker. Jake Matwychuk from Elmore High School, quarterback at 6 foot, 200 pounds. Brandon May, defensive lineman from Liberty Benton. Again, Brandon is one of those top defensive linemen that we were excited about signing, that we plan on having as in the 2 deep, competing right from the get-go. Davon Myskill from Walnut Ridge, defensive lineman at 6 foot, 267 pounds. Jacob Oblak from Strongsville High School. We talked about tight end. This is the big physical tight end. Jake's already 6'4", 250 pounds. And so he's a horse. He's big and he's physical. He's tough. He still catches the ball pretty good. A little more like Alex Renner was for us last year, the big physical tight end that we could use in the heavy sets. It's almost like a tackle playing tight end at times. And Jacob's going to give us that right away. David Perez from Miami, Florida. Coach Stoynoff, you get the award for signing the guy from the furthest. He was here. You remember the Saturday when we had about 8 inches of snow and it was blowing real hard, and we were about ready to cancel. So we show up. We had 60 people, I think, scheduled that day. Didn't we? Something close to that day. We had 60, and I didn't think anyone would show up. Well, 40 people show up, including this young man from Miami, Florida. It was like a 3-day drive that turned into a week-long drive, I guess. But obviously he wanted to be here, and we're excited to have him here. So we've expanded our recruiting borders, obviously. Austin Schaefer from Toledo Whitmer, offensive lineman, another 300-pounder. Scotty Slaughterback from St. Paul High School. We all know Eric Sweeterman played quarterback there on the great St. Paul team, tradition they have there. Scotty also played quarterback for them. He's a punter, he's a kicker. He's going to play in the Ohio North-South All-Star game. We think Scott would have a chance to punt for us next year. He's got a really strong leg, and we kind of like punters who are also quarterbacks, because occasionally we'll throw the ball out of the punt formation. You've watched our 4th down offense here in the last couple of years. So Scott would be a guy that could do that for us. Tyler Smith from Dayton Stebbins, defensive lineman, 6'3", 220 pounds. Tyler Smith from Northwestern, and locally, I think some of you had a chance to watch Tyler play. Again, it was one of those things, do we take a true tailback? But, Tyler is a guy, he's currently enrolled in school, taking classes right now. That helps. And, he can also be more of a bronco back, more of a slot back. There's different ways we can get him involved in the offense without just always lining him up at the I formation. But he's a tough, physical, good high school football player, and you're going to try to take as many of those kinds of players as you possibly can, particularly when they're local and they want to be at your school. Keyshawn Stafford from Dayton High School, wide receiver, or Stebbins High School, 6'3", 180 pounds. Austin Utter from Edison, Milan Edison. We weren't going to take linebackers, and we ended up getting the transfer from Indiana, and then Austin ends up showing up on a Saturday and an unbelievable workout, explosive. His numbers were just really, really impressive when we had those Saturday tryouts. And you watch his film, and all he does is make play after play after play. Plus, he can play on offense. He could be a fullback. He could be a linebacker. And he's a guy that wants to be here. He had some other offers in the PSAC, but who wants to play in the PSAC, right? I mean, seriously, this is a chance to come to Ashland and play. So he ended up committed to us at the end, and we really think he's going to be a fine football player and make an impact on our football team. Andrew Vaughn from Black River. I think most of you who followed Black River and football in this area and Medina County know what he's been able to do. I think all-time leading rusher, Doug, if I'm not mistaken, in Medina County and in the Ashland area, right? So that's a lot of yards, a lot of great running backs over the years. And Andrew's done it. He's done it hurt. He's done it consistently throughout his whole career. And he's done it with an unbelievable attitude and work ethic. And he wanted to be here. He was excited about being here. And you know, again, he didn't care about the fact we had other tailbacks who's here. You know, coach, I'll play anywhere. You tell me where I'll play. He's a guy who's played on defense. I think I saw the tape on one game. He returned an interception for 100 yards. And, you know, so he's just a football player. And he's a great person. And, again, we're excited about the fact that Andrew's coming to school here. Micah Veasley is a defensive back, one of the key defensive backs for us. We already talked about Irby. Makai's another guy that can help us right away. 6'1", 195 pounds. Toledo St. John High School. Justin Wabensky from Aurora High School, defensive lineman at 6'3", 275 pounds. Another one of our top defensive guys, one of those guys on the big board that we looked at early and said, this is a guy we need to get. If he can be one of those guys that we officially visit and he can commit to us, it's going to help us and we're going to get better. Same thing with Willie Whitaker, is a defensive lineman at Valley Forge High School. Willie was thinking about the possibility of going to another school, believe it or not, and we reminded him that Jamie Meter is from Valley Forge, and Jamie did okay here. And then Jamie reminded him that he was from Valley Forge, and he did okay here. So Willie had a change of heart and decided this was the place he needed to be. With a little coaxing from his coach and the alums and his coach, his college recruiting coach, he decided to commit to us. And we think, again, he can play for us. He can help us in the secondary. Matt Wilcox from Ada, Ohio. We have great success with the young men we've been able to sign from Ada. And I tease the guys we already have on campus, but Matt may be the most athletic we've signed. He's a big wide receiver at 6'1", 185 pounds, and we didn't really end up getting him committed till the end. Everything came together. He was a Saturday workout guy that was really impressive and really kind of fit what we were looking for. And make mention of the fact that we will have the PowerPoint here today dropped into this program at a later date, as well as this PowerPoint will be on our athletic website. And in the athletic website, you'll be able to go to the PowerPoint and actually go to a link on every one of these players and watch some highlights of each player in high school. So we'll have that available for you if you want to get to our website and watch all the players play in high school and see some of their highlights. You can do that at that time, on your own time. So here's a look at our schedule. We're just not going to get past that first one. We open September 6th against Lake Erie here. It's been a while since we've opened with that end of the conference, or the Ohio schools in the conference, but we're opening with the two Ohio schools at 7 p.m. And I believe the Findlay game too, Bill, did we talk about making that at 7 also? So I think we decided to make the first three, or excuse me, that wouldn't be that. Oh, Malone, yes, that's going to be at 7 o'clock, I think, because we're at Findlay. Yeah. So the first three are actually going to be 7 o'clock games for us. I'll also make mention of the fact that we start our spring practice here after spring break, the first Friday after we get back from break. I think was that March 14th. Is that the date on that? I believe it is. And we'll go 4 weeks, and we actually finish early this year. We finish April 11th. We'll have a golf outing that morning. I'm sure that'll be nice and warm out there playing golf on April 11th with the purple and gold game that night. And we'll have our silent auction. Actually, we're going to hold that this year at halftime during the spring game. So that's where it's at. I'd be glad to take some questions at this time. I really do appreciate all those that have been so helpful in making this work. It is a process of being accepted into school through the admissions process, making sure the financial aid is right, making sure the NCAA we're going through the clearinghouse and taking the proper steps there. And a lot of things have to fall in place, and the university has always been overwhelming in terms of accommodating the coaches and the players as they've come by to visit. I guess we covered it all. So we're excited about this. I'll get our players together here next week and tell them how much I really appreciate their help in making this recruiting class the class that it is, because they're responsible for it. Get our coaches together and we can start talking about next year's recruiting class. And we've got a few holes to fill yet. We'll still go ahead and continue to recruit right up through the end of spring. We're always able to pick up additional players after signing day, which works out well for us. Some really good players at times after signing day. But we're moving forward. We're excited about next season, and we're awfully excited about adding these players we talked about today to the football family here at Ashland University. Thank you very much for coming today.
Bye.